Alright, welcome back to Turdtowns, the channel that brings you the lesser known places in the UK. For good, but usually for bad reasons. And today is some more of those bad reasons because, well, I tried making a video about good places and as usual nobody cares. Because you're all masochists and you like to see depressing stuff. We're getting so close to that 100k now that I can almost smell it, like you can smell something when you reach junction 24 on the M5. Today we're off to Hampshire, which is a county in southern England, the 9th biggest county in England, home to around 1.9 million people. First off, I need to start this video off with a small apology to the people of Hampshire. A couple of months back I made a claim that the southwest was one of the most forgotten regions in the UK when it comes to government spending. Whilst Hampshire is a county in the south and not the southwest, it's not exactly going well here either. Some of these towns and cities were appalling, a real eye-opener, and I think some of you will feel the same way. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe to help Turdtowns thrive. Number 8, Southampton. Alright, kicking the list off with a city for a change on this channel. Southampton is a city of a population of 249,604. The rule on this channel is that the place with the most crime in the county must always feature in the list. But despite that, I didn't really believe Southampton is a turd city. It's not even a turd town. I regularly get comments telling me to visit here to see what an incredible downfall this city has had. I'm not really sure what downfall I was supposed to be seeing. Considering this city is an industrial port, you would expect depression, scurvy, rats the size of cats with a hint of sewerage in the air. But I didn't see any of that. There did seem to be a lot of homeless people, but unfortunately armies of homeless people is pretty common in cities up and down the country. The football team here is fairly successful. They seem to bounce between the top 2 divisions mostly, although currently in the championship, meaning that I still don't think we've had a single town with a premiership team on Turdtowns. So I was fairly on board with Southampton, and then just my luck, Southampton hits the headlines in a flash like explosive diarrhea. Shirley in Southampton has an epidemic in shoplifting, with teenagers so brazen that they threaten staff with assault if they're touched. Meanwhile, the teenagers are touching and taking everything the shop has to offer. So perhaps Southampton is a good city wrapped around with greasy suburbs. St Mary's is another bad area in Southampton, but what city doesn't have one? I still think it's better than a lot of cities I've visited, and I know for a fact that these problems are not endemic to Southampton. The main part of the city that visitors will see is decent enough. Number 7, Andover. Our second entry is the military town of Andover with a population of 48,487. You know, it's funny. In nicer towns we've got the slightly nicer architecture, and that trend seems to continue with telephone exchanges, possibly because the architecture's nicer in the better towns and therefore the buildings get cared for better. This is a good example of that. Well, the first bit was. Then they went and ruined it by building a second bit at the back, and it is completely mould and tears design. But this original building looks like effort actually went into the design, unlike a lot of buildings around there. It was built by people you could trust. Do you know who else you can trust? PIA VPN, the sponsor of today's video. In the ever-changing online world, a VPN is essential nowadays. It safeguards your internet connection, shielding your internet usage from those who are looking to exploit it. But it isn't all about protecting yourself from who's out there online. VPNs also have a fun side. Let's talk about streaming. Did you know that many websites and streaming services hide content based on your physical location? Netflix, Amazon and Disney offer different programs based on where you are in the world. This is great news when you feel like you've binge-watched everything that's out there. Just use PIA VPN to change your region and unlock a whole new range of series. PIA VPN will change your IP address, allowing you to access 91 different countries. With that much content out there, you can stay in your bed forever and bury your head in the sand. Hey, I might even join you. I meant about burying my head in the sand, not about the bed comment. Something that I didn't really know about before was that online shopping can have varying prices depending on your location, including online flights and video games. Well, that's me sorted then. Next time I'm in a turd town, I'll be looking for the first flight out of here. For the cheap price of just $2 a month, PIA VPN can really help improve your life. Use my special link in the description, piavpn.com/Turdtowns for a whopping 83% off, plus 4 additional months. So next time you see one of these grand old buildings that are actually well designed and cared for, think about the online equivalent, PIA VPN, the service that truly cares about your safety. And telephone exchange. That's probably just me, isn't it? This place regularly gets voted as one of the worst places in the UK. In all honesty, I don't see it. But I don't live here, so what would I know? I can only report on what I saw, and what I saw was a random medium-sized town in the middle of nowhere with a struggling high street, struggling people, but fortunately still some redeeming qualities. I didn't hate it, but at the same time it isn't exactly great here. There's evidence that it was so much more successful just 20 years ago around this town. Andover used to be famous for sheep herding and the nearby RAF station. Army headquarters are still based here, and there are nearby training camps too. Andover grew a lot after the Second World War as a home for displaced Londoners, and in a way not much has changed as it's a popular commuter town. Only around an hour on the train to London, and it's cheaper than many commuter towns. A house here will set you back an average of $305,000 or $1,400 a month in rent. Crime is the joint lowest on this list at 68 in 1,000. There really isn't much crime for criminals to commit here, but I bet the local sheep have some complaints. But hey, Andover is paradise compared to Aldershot. Number 6, Havant. Well, I haven't got a clue why this place is so bad. It's a town with a population of 46,953. You have to look for it, but there is evidence that history exists here. Unfortunately, they tried to bulldoze most of it in the 60s. You will find quite a few shopping streets in Havant with increasingly limited options. It's yet another place where they've decided to build a massive out-of-town shopping centre and they've left their high street to rot. This new shopping centre is actually great. It's just off the motorway, meaning that you don't even really need to go into Havant to shop. Havant is also home to Lee Park, which at one time was the world's largest council estate. Built just after World War II, it was designed to rehome all the people from Portsmouth who had been bombed during the Blitz. Now home to around 30,000 people, they escaped the perils of war only to arrive in a new war zone. This shopping centre near the train station is mostly in use, but wow, what a place. It looked like someone dumped a random UFO here, pissed on it and left it to rot for 40 years. This is the first thing people see when they get off the train. Many locals report that Havant is a pit of chavs, crime, boredom and societal decay. There's just nothing to do but become a smackhead. As this works well as a commuter town, houses are slightly expensive at $306,000 or $1,100 a month to rent. The people here are just desperate and every day is a struggle to stay alive. It's known to be one of the most depressing places in the country. They fight a daily battle just to get up in the morning to start another day. What can save the townsfolk of Havant? In my opinion, maybe focusing on the haves and not the haven'ts. Number 5, Waterlooville. Well, Lou is right. Coming in at number 5 is the town of Waterlooville with a population of 34,772. The town is named after a pub, but this isn't going to be a repeat of Craven Arms. Waterlooville is not the worst place in the county. The pub was named Heroes of Waterloo after the soldiers who took part in the Great War. Then a town grew up around the pub. It was quite a successful town, but then they of course decided to pedestrianise the whole thing. And now it's grey, grey and more grey. The buildings are ugly, unfitting square blocks and they're all either empty or containing a barber shop. They also built a retail park across a busy main road and surprise surprise the high street is now struggling. It has actually been called the UK's worst high street. I don't think it is. There are worse ones to come in this video alone, but it may be one of the ugliest. Just off the high street you'll find Wellington Way. There's a website for it which states it's a mixture of big high street names and boutiques. Come enjoy the atmosphere. What atmosphere? Yeah, that's right, come to Wellington Way, enjoy the sound of pigeons mating whilst builders desperately hammer loudly on the shop ceiling trying to save what's left of this hellhole. It's a waste of time. The council had originally planned to knock down this years ago, so the independent shops all moved out, only for the council to perform a U-turn and not knock down the buildings after all. What a bunch of morons. In all fairness, this did look worse just 1 year ago. Shows the power of these videos, they can sometimes force change. We've also got a massive derelict Waitrose. Not often you say that. Perhaps showing that some places just aren't posh enough to support a Waitrose. Waterlooville is conveniently located on the A3 Portsmouth to London road, so as long as you have a car, escape is easy enough. But you're screwed if you don't have one, because Waterlooville is one of the largest towns in the UK which doesn't have a train station. It does have a football team though. The teams of Havant and Waterlooville both combined due to their close proximity and also their close proximity to failures to create Havant and Waterlooville FC. It's a team that nobody has heard of except that one time that they lost to Liverpool 4-2 in the FA Cup. Just like the two towns that the team represents. Not much has changed since. If it was my choice, I'd just change the name to Louville, because this place is heading straight down the toilet. Number 4, Totton. Hanging off the backside of Southampton like a blistering boil filled with pus is the town of Totton with a population of 28,094. Well, it is certainly one of the ugliest places I've ever been. It's not enough that the town is completely devoid of any character. No. The town has to be nestled deep inside the filthy brown pollution clouds which billow menacingly around southwest Hampshire. The town is barricaded on all four sides by huge roads. Factories spill out pollution from nearby dockyards and a dual carriageway runs right through the middle of the town too. Lorries constantly block the roads in this industrial hellhole day and night. Even Wikipedia describes the town as not having changed since the 70s. Totton is basically what happens when you combine four originally separate villages. It leads to a bizarre town layout. The railway station doesn't feel central to the town and it's in a depressing dirt-filled part of the neighbourhood. Imagine getting off a train here and this is the first thing that you see. We used to take pride in our towns. This place is embarrassing. Why not some nice flowers and a cafe? Instead we get a pile of trash and a row of boarded up shops. Welcome to Totton and welcome to England. The official high street is essentially a dead end without a single recognisable shop, and it doesn't even seem like the main shopping area in this town. If you weren't a local, you would never come down here. Above most of the shops are scabies-infested beds for rent for lorry drivers to spend a night. A haircut is often thrown in at a discounted rate. It's a real mixture of city folk and hillbillies here. This year, a man was arrested for the racially, religiously aggravated crime of putting dead sheep and deer carcasses outside churches in the Totton area. So, you can throw in the stench of rotting goats and maggots to the smell list for Totton. I haven't actually got to the worst part of Totton yet. As a ratio, Totton actually has the third worst crime in Hampshire at 79 in 1,000, only beaten by two cities. Wow, great job Totton, what a lovely place. If you want to live here, and I honestly don't know why you would, the New Forest is nearby. Yeah, well that's like saying you almost didn't miss the pan. If you want to live here, the average house price is 321,000, or you can rent for 1,164 a month. I have no idea how anybody is surviving this country anymore. Totton is very flat, which is probably a good thing because the views towards Southampton are just as vile as the town itself. Who wants to stare at rusty old cranes, constant motorway traffic, or some of the most hideous council flats to ever be designed? Totton gave me a lung infection and pink eye too. Don't worry though folks, because the New Forest is just a few miles away. They say that the trees are the lungs of the world. Well, this forest is going to have to triple in size in order for the trees to cope with the levels of pollution which exist here in Totton. Number 3, Aldershot. Why is Aldershot in Hampshire? It is so far away from literally everywhere else on this list. 3 hours wasted driving there and back for some smashed up hellhole. It's an army town which is home to a population of 39,807. In fact, it's the home of the British Army. Well, from the look of the place, they'd be better off bringing in martial law to this town. It is very ugly here. Besides, they've sold off most of the army stuff now anyway. This year, the Sunday Times ranked it as the worst town in England, so that is some high praise right there. They reached this conclusion due to the town completely lacking in any character, being run down, having 2 poorly performing schools, and the highest NHS waiting time list. Locals find the town centre intimidating, and they're tired of all the drug dealing and drinking taking place during the day. The vibe may be different to what you would expect here. Aldershot nicknamed Kathmandu and Little Nepal due to the high concentration of Nepalese people here. Reportedly, around 10% of Aldershot's entire population, although walking around here it felt like more. Other reports say that 6,000 of them live here. These people originate from Gurkha soldiers, a proud part of the British Army for hundreds of years. And as Aldershot is home of the army, they chose to settle down here. Joanna Lumley also forced the government to allow more to settle in this town. Unfortunately, many of them have little money since retiring to Aldershot as their army pensions were based on their Indian pension and not the UK pension. Can you imagine retiring to Aldershot? I'd rather stay in the army getting shot at. Anyway, this in turn means that Aldershot is the town with the most Buddhists in England. Despite all the army links to the town, nobody was dressed smart or had any military discipline. Aldershot was the only place in Hampshire covered in Union Jack flags, which means that either the Nepalese people are extremely patriotic, or perhaps nobody in Aldershot works and they had time to do this. Despite all its bad press, it's not even cheap to live here due to its close proximity to London. Average rent here is $1,400 a month, and to buy it's $358,000. Reasons like that why this country is in such a state. How can it possibly cost that much to live in a hellhole like this? Most people think Aldershot is in Surrey, but they don't want it. Even my phone hates Aldershot, as every time I write its name it autocorrects to a swear word. very appropriate. Aldershot has higher unemployment than the average for this county, with 3.1% of working age people out of work currently. The crime is... it's not actually as bad as I expected. It had the 4th worst crime in the county at a rate of 77 in 1,000. It's actually the lowest it's been here for 4 years. For the size of the place, the shopping situation is poor and it keeps getting worse. Recently, they knocked down a shopping centre which was only built in the 90s, and they plan to eventually replace it with flats and an extra exciting car park. Well, if the town centre continues the way that it's going, there's going to be no need for a car park because no one would ever come here for anything. Even the locals call it the worst place ever. Aldershot just doesn't feel like a nice place. It's very intimidating, gloomy and completely devoid of any character. The sort of place you come when your life has hit rock bottom. Ironically, Aldershot is the sort of town that you join the military to escape from. Number 2, Gosport. It's not good news, Gosport, not good news at all. Gosport is a peninsula town with a population of 70,101. The clue's in the name if you couldn't figure it out. Why does this place exist? It is horrific. It has to be one of the most depressing places I've ever visited. It would almost be entirely cut off from the world if it wasn't for one thing, the passenger ferry to Portsmouth. It doesn't take cars though, so this ferry only helps somewhat. It's like linking 2 turd lumps together to create one giant megaturd. It's frustrating because the city is just a cat's whisker away, but during rush hour it can take sometimes an hour or more. There's no train station and the ferry doesn't run at night either. Well, that's killed the romance to Gosport couples. They're going to have to make do with whatever Gosport has to offer, which doesn't seem to be much. Well, I say that, but it does have a beach, which is quite far away from the town centre, so at the time I didn't realise that it existed. It also has a wide selection of council flats, and if you're looking to open up a shop, there's plenty of empty units to choose from. Yeah, the shopping situation is really bad. It's the worst in this video and the worst in Hampshire. It feels so tired and dead here. I'd actually go as far to say it's one of the gloomiest and most depressing places I've ever had the misfortune to visit. A sign proudly proclaims that I'm entering Gosport shopping precinct. I find a random collection of empty shops underneath some grimy flats. There's 2 benches covered in bird crap and a planter from the 60s filled with weeds. There was one fishing shop open that looked cool, but apart from that, this whole thing needs knocking down in the worst way possible. This place is too embarrassing. I can't imagine that this was ever a successful part of town. Elsewhere in the town, there is something that resembles a historic narrow shopping street which usually contains beautiful independent shops in successful towns. But this isn't a successful town and all that's here is empty and smashed up shops and it's essentially a piss-filled alleyway. At least 38 million is currently being spent by regenerating Gosport by pulling down the old bus station and turning it into a park, which was underway when I arrived. It's also cheap to live here by Hampshire standards, with a house costing just $256,000 on average, or you can rent here for $1,500 a month, which just seems greedy. $1,500 to rent a copy and paste 2 up, 2 down house. I'd rather stick 2 down the toilet than 2 up at Gosport. And number 1, Portsmouth. And at number 1 is the city of Portsmouth with a population of 208,000. Regularly voted as the worst place in the UK, and it feels like I've said that a few times today. You know how sometimes I say those people who voted need to get out more and see other places if they think this is bad? Well, this is not one of those times. It is a legit turd city. The easiest way to sum up Portsmouth is that it's London without any of its redeeming qualities. Everything is so busy here, it is exhausting. There's just too many people crammed onto Portsea Island. It felt like we could sink at any moment. It's honestly horrendous. I don't know how people can live like this. Apparently they've been shipping in Londoners from low-income households for years now. To a country boy, this place is horrendous. There is no space to even breathe. But I do understand that some people like hustle and bustle, so I'll let it slide. Outside of London, it is the second most densely populated place in the UK other than Luton. There's a lot of reasons for the overcrowding here. It's not just because it's an island. It's a city which is commutable to London at an hour and a half on the train. There's a Royal Navy dockyard, cruise ships still depart from here, and it is the main ferry entrance to the Isle of Wight, which I covered in a separate video. On top of that, you've got the university here. Portsmouth University is a large part of the reason that it's so busy around here. It offers great courses for people who didn't get the greatest grades at school. Many university students report ending up staying in Portsmouth after their studies finish, as they can't afford anywhere else. And so the cycle begins. It would be interesting to see where Portsmouth would be without it, because this university is centrally located. It's very good for students here though, because Portsmouth officially has more pubs per square mile than any other city in England. Well, you need a lot of beers to live here. Whilst the place is ugly, being blind won't be enough to help you because the accent here is one of the most repulsive sounds that a human can produce. It sounds like a cockney choking on a gone-off milkshake. And I know I haven't exactly got a leg to stand on, but Portsmouth made me wish I didn't have ears. I guess I've got to give a bit of praise. The shopping isn't as bad as people make out. Yes, the area around the old Debenham store looks horrendous, and to be honest, it feels like you may get mugged without a moment's warning. But that aside, the rest of the shopping was okay. Not as good as Southampton, but still not terrible. The shopping mall here seemed pretty nice. There's also a lot of history here, although I'm not sure if you can actually enjoy any of it pushing through the crowds of people. Many people from Portsmouth are incredibly proud of their city and rarely venture elsewhere. Some people genuinely do love living here, it's not a one-sided thing. You can pick up a house here for the fairly cheap price of $289,000 or rent for $1,500 a month. Man, this video has really hit home what a rip-off renting is. Much of Portsmouth looks like a 60s style bomb site. Fratton in particular, I wouldn't wish that on my own worst enemy. It's here that you can find Portsmouth Football Club, the rival of Southampton Football Club, although they've unfortunately slipped behind them in recent decades. They despise each other, and when they do occasionally play each other, the cities get destroyed. I love how Portsmouth decided to build a giant £30 million tower right next to one of the poorest neighbourhoods in the city. It really gives residents aspiration and hopes for the future that one day they can get as high as the tower. Unfortunately, most of them don't do this through career aspirations. There is a lot of poverty here, with some saying it just feels like one giant council estate. It doesn't help that huge tower blocks eclipse the skyline wherever you look. The secret hopes of the government is that they're filling up Portsea Island with the great unwashed, and then once full, they can cut it loose and let it float out to the sea. The locals can stay insular, and the rest of the UK doesn't have to deal with the island ever again. And that's the list. Did we miss anywhere out? Was Hampshire better or worse than you expected? Don't forget to leave a comment and like, share and subscribe to help Turdtowns thrive.